Hello, my name is John, and today we're discussing row placement in Gwent. We're going to go faction by faction now that the meta is kind of stabilized around the way of the Witcher and figure it out. Before we go too far though, I do want to remind everybody about the one card that everybody likes to run, which I'm scrolling down to find, which is Geralt Yurden. If you have a lot of boosty stuff, it might be worth spreading out regardless of what your opponent's playing, because Geralt can appear in any deck. So if you pack a row, you could lose everything if you have a lot of boosts there. But with Geralt sitting in the back of our minds, let's go faction by faction, talk about what they have that could influence your row placement heavily. Let's start with some of the easier ones. So let's go with monsters. Monsters, you have two, but they're really out of meta right now. You have Frost via Red Riders, and you have Werecat. Red Riders spread will get Frost on both rows. If you're spread out, it's really easy for them to get all 8 points of potential value off of it. Likewise, if you pack a row, there's Werecat, basically better lacerate, damage all enemy units on the opposite row by 1, and then they eat it, they do it again. Haunt is probably going to be more popular than Frost, because Frost is just a little underpowered in the current meta. I like to spread out when I play against monsters, because eventually somebody is going to sneak in a Werecat, because everyone will be lazy in row pack, and that makes Werecat pretty good if they do that. So, monsters, spread it out. Next, Skellige. Skellige got some really good tools, specifically one, which is Gerd, to punish row packing. So, before Adrenaline 4, right, spawn a Deafening Siren on the opposite row and damage all the units on that row by 1. That's right. Don't pack your row against Gerd. Heimdall is a bomb right now, with Skellige Warrior being super good. You want to be really careful about Heimdall. Similar concept, deals more damage based on number of units on the opposite row. Both Heimdall and Gerd are played. When you see Patricidal Fury, you should be thinking they have one or both of them. In all likelihood, definitely Heimdall, probably Gerd, not guaranteed though. For collecting the thoughts, for Skellige, you want to make sure to spread out your armor pretty efficiently and spread out your units pretty efficiently. Don't make an easy row choice for them when they play this card. Make them look and say, oh, it's going to give me +4/+4, regardless of what row I pick. So no big deal there. Spread out against Skellige, be extra mindful. That one does matter a lot more than monsters. Speaking of ones that don't matter too much, Northern Realms. They have Reinforced Trebuchet and Griffin Witcher Ranger. Reinforced Trebuchet, nobody plays it unless you have a Siege deck, and they're kind of obligated to because Siege will spawn it. But Siege is very, very unpopular at the moment. You probably won't be seeing it. Griffin Witcher Ranger is a new card, basically boosting itself by 1 for every unit on the opposite row. You want to be careful here, because Witchers are run. My strategy against Northern Realms, start packing front row. If I think that they are going Witchers, like 1 or 2 cards early on indicates Witchers to me, I'll start spreading out immediately. If not, better potentially play around Siege, but eventually it would not surprise, a lot of eventuallys here, it would not surprise me if someday Griffin Witcher Ranger, if everyone's row packing too heavily, starts to sneak into decks, because as long as somebody plays 6 units on their row, Griffin Witcher Ranger becomes pretty good just as an 8 points for 5 provision. So bear that in mind when you're playing your cards, but typically pack your front row and then either choose to spread out or keep packing. Next, let's do a slightly more complicated one. Syndicate. Syndicate doesn't have too many cards. Tin Boy punishes a single row, and that's, simple enough to play around. Spread it out. Force him to use the Tribute 8 to damage all enemy units by 2 instead of just being able to get it for free by row packing. There's also Tavern Brawl. Force an enemy unit to duel an adjacent unit. Adjacent units matter to Syndicate, and then we're going to talk about Nilfgaard. Short story is to deal with cards like this. Weak unit, strong unit, weak unit. Sandwich, guys. Sandwich your strong units between weak units. Easiest way. If you see line pockets, that's a red flag that Tavern Brawl is in their deck, because it's a niche crime, but crimes are much better in line pockets when you're actively trying to abuse a lot of them. So you can get more niche cards into those type of decks. Making great progress, guys. Let's go ahead and discuss Nilfgaard, which is going to be just a mess. Similar concept to Tavern Brawl. They have Treason. Choose an enemy unit and damage adjacent enemy units by its power. Again, sandwich, guys. Use the sandwich strategy. Treason is definitely going to be in the deck if you see Enslave. Like 75 to 80% chance. Simply because Enslave gets benefit from tactics. There aren't too many great tactics in this game. So So if they're going to get 8 of them in there, they're probably going to sneak in a treason. Because you'll see stuff like coded weapons, maybe. Depends on what they want to do. But assassinate, tourney joust, are kind of auto includes. But then you still want to get at least another 4 in there. So you might sneak in treason. Then additionally, similar concept for Rot Tosser. Basically poisons both adjacent units. So again, if you sandwich them out, you have time to put a weak unit next to the cow carcass to defend your strong unit that the enemy is trying to poison. But if you have 2 good units and a cow carcass appears in the middle, you can only really save one of them from being poisoned by throwing a different unit next to the cow carcass. One of them will end up getting poisoned. For easy ones to play around, they have pikemen. So if you're going to play a row, play back row. Pikemen exist. No one plays them. And then there's Assassinate, which damages an enemy unit by 6, decrease damage by 1 for each unit adjacent to it. Notably, basically you want weak units or units of armor on the end of your row. So whatever's at the end of a packed row will take 5 from Assassinate because it'll only have 1 unit adjacent to it. So put things that can not basically have low value things on the end or things of armor to prevent assassinations from getting the full 5 points. Now, assassination can be used early on by Nilfgaard to kill the first unit you play. Not much you can do about that. But you can, for Nilfgaard, pack the back row, sandwiching things weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, and taking advantage of putting things of armor or weak units in general on the end of the row. And again, if you see Enslave, treason. Just like for line pockets, if you see line pockets in Syndicate, you need to be thinking Tavern Brawl. Now let's cover the final one, which is just a mess. Scoyotel is nuts and has been the cause of me re-recording this video multiple times as I start talking about it and go down a spiral and I get lost in my own madness because there's no way to play around everything that Scoyotel is offering. So to start, let's go through why you don't play on melee row. You don't play melee row because Jezreels exist. There's no reason to play melee row unless you're 100% sure this card is not in their deck. Because if you are wrong, you might have just thrown the match. Because it will deal damage, because of Adrenaline 3, 1 damage to every single thing on your front row. And because of, again, Adrenaline 3, it's probably going to get 2 procs off. So it's basically a lacerate immediately, on top of already providing 5 points, and on top of buffing the back row twice. So it'll basically be lacerate plus 2, what's the card? Clear Skies, I think it says. Yeah, it's 2 Clear Skies and a lacerate. All on 1 card. This card is just nuts. So be so careful of this thing. Then there is also things like Saber-Tooth Tiger, which punishes you if you have isolated units. You have Brehen, which punishes you if you have a really good unit at the end of a row. That's becoming less popular because Guerrilla Tactics doesn't really matter. And then because everyone went to Precision Strike or Deadeye Ambush. Sweet. If you pack a row, you're going to get punished from Crushing Trap. If you spread out, you get punished from Cat Witcher. If you don't spread out, you get punished just like Crushing Trap. You get punished from making a bomb because instead of giving it bleeding 4 by moving it onto the other row, it'll be isolated, so it'll get damage 4 instead. Bowman says if you pack back row because you're trying to avoid the Jezreels, if you pack back row, hey, Bowman's going to deal 1 extra damage. Now, I don't even know if did I say, and there's Torviel, which punishes you if you pack a row as well. Torviel is easier to play around if they were on melee and you just put armored units on the end of the row. If that all was crazy to you, in my eyes, that was all crazy. Here's how I play Scoyotel. I pack the back row, and then if I'm feeling like the move Witcher isn't coming, I might spread out a little bit. Crushing Trap is becoming more and more popular as a way to punish people for packing the back row. But likewise, if you only have 1 or 2 units on the front row, it's not the end of the world for Jezreels. I've seen decks, though, again, packing Bowman and Jezreels and Cat Witchers. So, not going to win it all. Now, mind you, if you start seeing move cards, don't ever, spread out even a little bit. Cat Witchers are such a bomb card. This might be maybe one of the best, if not, maybe the best Scoyotel card right now. Cat Witchers are genuinely insane. Because they're an engine that's, similar to the classic, I get a point per turn engine. But then Adrenaline 4 kicks in and they get significantly more value than the standard engine. So put a big little red flag next to Cat Witchers. If you're seeing that, pack the back row and just take the hit from the Crushing Traps. It's better that way. And that's all of them, guys. I genuinely hope I did not misspeak at one point. But if I did, let me know down below and I'll address it in the comments and apologize profusely. And I hope if you liked what you saw, definitely make sure to subscribe. It helps me, and it helps me know that I should make more videos like this. I wish you luck with your future Gwent games. Remember, there are no good ruining the outro. I'm ruining the outro because I'm thinking about it on the fly. Let's try this again. Remember, in Gwent, there are no good players. There are only various ranges of bad players. And the only thing you need to do is be a little less bad than your opponent. Every point counts in becoming a little less bad. Mind your row placements, punish your opponent's placements, and I'll see you in the next video.